What is up, everybody? This is another episode of Under Center. I'm Zach. Got Jack here along with me to dive into week one, a big preview. We'll talk about our thoughts from the Cowboys Eagles game last night, and we'll dive into the rest of week one and our best bets, and we'll cap it off with our season long predictions for divisions. And we're going to also, have a little survivor picks, weekly survivor picks back and forth for Jack and I to compete a little bit. So we'll cap it off with that. But yeah, let's start with the Eagles and Cowboys. First game of the season. Had a little bit of a weather incident, which was interesting. Kept everyone on their toes, but safe to say football's back. Jack, any initial thoughts from the game last night? Any big major takeaways that you're gonna kind of take with you and hold on to from a fantasy perspective? Give me your thoughts.
Yeah, well, I'm excited for this podcast, Zach. We're gonna have some fun things to talk about. It was good to have football back, of course. Little delays with the weather was kind of frustrating. The game flow kind of shifted a little bit. There wasn't as much offense going on. There's some key things you could take away. Maybe some overreactions to the Cowboys' run game. Javonte Williams running for 2 touchdowns. We'll see if that continues. Obviously, he's going to move up a little bit on our rest of year rankings. Jadon Blue is on the practice squad so far for that game and in that active scratch. I think they wanted to give him a little more time to ramp up. I'm still high on Jadon Blue at stashing him on your bench, so I'm not going to overreact to that yet. And I think he can pretty easily pass Miles Sanders eventually. And then you had wide receivers not really performing to the expectation, maybe with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Pickens as well, just not having the biggest games. We'll talk a little bit about like how that changes our rest of season outlook, but again, not overreacting to just the Thursday night game. I feel like there's always some weird things that happened in that first game.
Yeah, you don't want to. As frustrating as it is to be an AJ Brown fantasy manager or a Devontae Smith fantasy manager, you don't want to sell any of those guys right now off of really. You don't really want to sell these guys low and not get enough value back for them if you're looking to trade them right away. I think you just got to wait it out. Like we said, I mentioned in our wide receiver rankings video that a guy like AJ Brown, I'm not super high on him because you're going to have games like this where the Eagles are going to be very run heavy. It's going to be Hurts, it's going to be Saquon, and everyone else is kind of just going to fill in. And if you look, I mean, the team had more rushing yards than passing yards. So, you're going to have games where A.J. Brown isn't going to get the crazy wide receiver one volume, which is why I had him kind of lower on the totem pole as a high-end wide receiver too. And again, this was just kind of one of those weird games where the passing game wasn't really utilized. The run game is so effective, and Jalen Hurts was so effective with his legs that you didn't see, you saw combined 4 targets for A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, and that's unheard of. I mean, 7 receptions for Dallas Goedert, but you didn't have anyone else.
That's a little bit of the Eagles' game plan coming in, not being afraid of Parsons not being in the middle anymore. They feel like they can go up the middle with Goddard,
Yeah.
and Saquon had 4 catches as well. I'm not overreact, but definitely concerning. I think this was part of my strategy coming in, not targeting the Eagles wide receivers too much ahead of value. Yeah, it's definitely it's a bad way to start your week one, but plenty of time to make up some points here.
Yeah, and yeah, like you said, the Eagles are definitely looking around the football. That has not changed. So the ceilings with Devontae and A.J. Brown and even Dallas Goedert going forward, you have to keep that in mind. Also interesting that, you had Will Shipley get 3 carries, you had A.J. Dillon come in and get 3 carries. So they're not going to try to run Saquon Barkley into the ground this year with 345-plus carries like they did last year. Obviously, he's still the bell cow RB1, but he may not be getting the 20-plus carries every game. He did get you 18-ish fantasy points in a PPR format in this game and did find the end zone, but I don't have him in the Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs territory in terms of rankings, and he's not any closer after this game, I would say. Cowboys, we can just kind of quickly shift over to that box score. I mean, CeeDee Lamb, 7 catches.
With Jalen Hurts to get those 2 rushing touchdowns is big. Draft the QB that early. You want to see the rushing production. Obviously, they're not passing the ball a ton, but when you get 14 carries, that's pretty impressive for a QB right out the bat.
Jalen Hurts is the same guy he was last year. Led the league in rushing touchdowns from a quarterback position. I don't really see that changing, especially with the tush push. They didn't have any tush pushes at the goal line. But yeah, Hurts looks the same. Top 4, gonna kind of stay in the top 4. Honestly, was the reason the Eagles won the game last night. I thought he was great. Decision making was great, and the chains were always moving. Yeah, so you ran up a good point there. You did get the 2 rushing touchdowns from Jalen
Are you
Hurts.
upgrading either Goddard or or the Cowboys tight end Ferguson after seeing this game tonight? Are either of those guys moving up your rankings?
Not yet. I mean, it was nice to see Goddard get a lot of those targets and plays up the middle. I just think that's kind of was scheme based. And in terms of Jake Ferguson, I did have him as a sit in our start sit video. He did get you 5 catches in PPR, which is great, but the yards weren't there. He had that red zone target where Reed Blankenship broke it up and took a defenseless hit penalty. But I'm not really super eager to move I mean, they didn't have good enough performances for me to be like, oh, they're going to jump this guy or that guy before even, Sunday. So I'm going to leave them where they are. It was nice to see Goddard get involved and have those 7 receptions. But, again, no one scored a touchdown from the tight end position yesterday. And I didn't really take much away in terms of rankings yet. We'll see how the rest of the tight ends, I know it's a slim position. I'm sure we'll have movement as the weekend progresses here. But I'm going to leave them where they are in our rankings for now, after last night. But again, nice to see Goddard get 7 receptions, especially in a run-heavy scheme for the Eagles last night. Cowboys, talking about the Cowboys, CeeDee Lamb, 7 catches, 110 yards. You would think fantasy managers would be happy about that. But he did have some food left on the table there. Talk to me about CeeDee, and 13 targets is good, but what do you got for the Cowboys as well, with the rest of the guys looking here?
I have a high stake in CeeDee this year. Just where I fell in the drafts, I happen to get a lot of CeeDee. I know you're super high on CeeDee as well. This is, if nothing, an encouraging performance. You like to see 13 targets. Obviously, it's frustrating when he could have a 30-point game and have even more touches and catches and more fantasy points. But I'm gonna take it in stride. I'll take the 110 yards. If you're in a 100-yard bonus league, which one of my leagues is, I'm happy to get the CeeDee production and encourage that he's the clear wide receiver 1, and Pickens and Ferguson and all those guys are kind of the background characters, and CeeDee being the main character here in Dallas.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I mean, it's 13 targets. It's what you want. 110 yards, also what you want. I know he had a couple drops, but I'd rather him get open, get the target, and drop the ball than not get open and not get the target. So from a fantasy perspective, when we're looking at the rest of the year, if you can pencil in 12-plus targets every game for CeeDee Lamb, again, this was supposed to be not as soft as a matchup as he's going to have against the Giants next week, which I'm sure he's going to be very busy and very angry he didn't haul in a couple balls at the end of the game yesterday. I'm fine with this performance here from CeeDee. I still have him as the number 1 receiver, even if Jamar Chase lights up the Browns this weekend. I think he's going to light up the Giants next weekend. The drops were frustrating, but it's the first game of the season. You're coming out of an hour break with the thunderstorms in the area. It was just a very
most of those drops came after the delay too. So
right, that's what I'm saying. So it came after the delay. Yeah, and he wasn't complaining. He held himself accountable, patted himself on the chest. It's my bad. So I'm not really concerned with CeeDee Lamb here. He did get you 18 points in PPR, but I'm more concerned here about George Pickens, right? Because with Pickens, he's going to be the downfield threat. He's going to go up and get it. That's his skill set. But 4 targets, in a game where they were trailing is not super encouraging. I know he drew a pass interference penalty, but 3 for 30 is not going to get you off to a great start here in fantasy, and you're hoping down the line that him and Dak connect on those big plays, especially with the 13 targets, underneath that CeeDee Lamb's going to get. Obviously, Dak's going to look for CeeDee right away, and with Javonte Williams running the ball effectively, it seems like the Cowboys like to get ahead of the sticks. The O-line had good push yesterday for Dallas. It seems like everyone coming to the season was like, the Cowboys aren't going to run the ball at all. They don't have a running back. Well, they had.
I mean, I'm not convinced that 3.6 yards per carry is not like blowing me away by any means. He got lucky, got in the end zone twice. He looked better than last year, but we'll see. Obviously, it's one game at a time, and I'm still looking for some sneaky blue Jadon Blue to come in there and maybe take the role at some point.
Long term, I see that. Yeah, I agree. I just think the team, regardless of how many yards per carry they had, ran the ball 22 times compared to throwing it 34 times. Everyone thought going to the season, that gap would be wider in terms of Dak would be throwing the ball 40-plus times, the team would be running the ball sub-20 times. It's shrunk a little bit week 1. They look to establish the run, and that will limit guys like George Pickens, Jalen Tolbert, these wide receiver 2s and wide receiver 3s, because when you are passing the ball, a lot of those targets are going to CeeDee Lamb. Dak Prescott likes Jake Ferguson up the middle, so it's hard to see where Pickens is going to explode and return, 5th-round value in fantasy. So he might be lowered a little bit on the rankings for that reason.
Agree with you on that, yeah. Do you think it's time? I think we can move on to the rest of the week now. talked enough
Yeah,
Eagles Cowboys. You could always just send us some questions on the way about those two teams,
yeah, yeah.
and
Let's
happy
do
to
it.
circle
All
back
right,
there.
talk to me about week one. So we have a ton of games, starting with this Friday night game in Brazil with the Chiefs laying 3. I think it moved to 3.5. What do you see? I mean, this game, all these Brazil games are super interesting, but we both have our best bets here. We both like KC in the points. What do you got, Jack?
Yeah, KC, obviously, I think it's a neutral site. They are I think the 3 points is good. They're obviously coming back from a Super Bowl, want to show something this year, a little more, get off to a good start, after that embarrassing Super Bowl loss. So for the prop, I like this game. We both came up with props. We'll share it for each game. Xavier Worthy, I want to get the over on his longest reception at 21.5 yards. I feel like the air is a little different there in Brazil, so we can get some big catches for Xavier Worthy, get some extra looks because Rashee Rice isn't going to be there. So we'll see. What's your prop there, Zach?
Yeah. I have Ladd McConkey over 5.5 receptions, piggybacking off his performance in the playoffs against Houston last year where he had 9 catches. I think that everything out of camp, Harbaugh said he's looked great. And in order for them to compete in this huge divisional matchup with the favorite, the entering favorite in Kansas City, they're going to utilize Ladd McConkey up the middle. I think 5.5 receptions is a good line for him. I could see him getting 6, 7,
That's
8
a great
receptions
line, yeah.
here, especially in a game script where they could be trailing. And also in the Brazil game last year, you saw a crazy shootout, I think, between Philly and Green Bay. So I like this line here. I'm not going to overthink it. I do like Worthy as well. I think the air is different there. Big plays are way more often and common there. So give me Ladd McConkey here, 5.5 receptions. I think there's going to be a balanced attack from the Chargers out the gate. Hampton's going to run the ball well. McConkey's going to be the guy who's going to be targeted for Herbert to start the season. So that's why I'm on McConkey here over 5.5. I do like the Chiefs to come out and win this game. I'm having played there before, but yeah, give me McConkey here in a good game script.
Yeah, that's a great pick. I really like that. I think McConkey's going to have a big role out the gates here. 5.5 receptions seems pretty reasonable for what he's done in the past and what we saw last year in the playoffs. Wouldn't mind parlaying those two or adding the Chiefs win as well. So, yeah, good combination there.
Fun three-legger.
Yeah. Let's talk some Giants and Commanders, shall we? It's your team versus my team. Obviously a little biased on both sides, but I'm very high on the Giants this year. I like the matchup. Commanders got some injuries on the O-line, so the Giants, obviously, their strength is the D-line, could get to the quarterback a little bit. Daniels is obviously a hard quarterback to track down there with his scrambling ability, but I like the Giants to cover at least and keep it a close game, being in the division. Dable's got something to prove. Russell Wilson's got something to prove. So I think they're going to want to come out of the gate giving it their all for this first game. And then for props, I like some of those like lower tier Giants receivers to maybe have some production there. So Wan'Dale Robinson over 4.5 receptions. He's going to get like 5 receptions, 20 yards, something like that. Wan'Dale, he's just going to be getting like 2 yards per catch or something like that throughout the season. And then Darius Slayton over 17.5 yards as his longest reception. I could see Slayton having a long catch. Typically what you see from Slayton is you get a catch or two for over 20 yards. Yeah, what's your thoughts on the Commanders-Giants games?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it'll be a close game, but I think a touchdown's a close game. So if I had a gun to my head, I would take the Commanders here minus 5.5. I think they'll win by a touchdown. Plus, I do disagree. I think, Danger Russ Wilson is going to show up for this matchup, and I don't think he's looking for Wan'Dale 3 yards down the field. I think he's looking for Mr. Malik Neighbors, who torched the Washington Commanders twice last year with multiple huge games. You get Malik Neighbors at 75.5. I like alternating that up to 80 plus to get plus odds in your parlays. I think that, the one thing about Washington is that their secondary is great. They'll probably get some of Marshawn Lattimore and Mike Sanger still. But I could see the Giants being kind of consistently being down a touchdown or so. This will unleash Malik Neighbors a bit, so that's kind of where I stand here. Until I see Malik Neighbors have a bad game against Washington, I'm not gonna fade him. I do think this game is potentially fantasy viable in terms of output. So give me Malik Neighbors. I could even see Terry McLaurin getting in the end zone, Jaden Daniels rushing into the end zone. I think this will be a little bit of a back and forth game. I like Tyrone Tracy as well to score. But my pick for this game is going to be Malik Neighbors over 75.5 receiving yards. He's hit that twice in 2 games against Washington. Why not hit it a third?
Yeah, I don't
so
know.
That's kind of my thought process. Yeah. Moving on. Carolina at Jacksonville. Jacksonville's laying 3.5 at home. I'm looking at our picks here. I like both of them. Talk to me about why you're on Bryce Young and the Panthers here to cover a field goal in Jacksonville.
I think both teams are about the same in terms of expectations this year. I'm not too high on either team to have like a playoff run this year or something like that. But I think the Panthers can cover a field goal. I think it's going to be a real close game. So I took the team that's home. I mean, not home, but is gonna whatever. It's gonna be a 1-2 point game in my estimation. So the team that's getting points was where I went. And then McMillan, the rookie, I think he's gonna have a big game. They don't have any Thielen anymore. The connection between him and Young has been highly notarized as something to look out for this year. So I like him for over 65.5 receiving yards this year. I mean, in this game, and him to have a big game coming out the gate. So I'm also starting him in fantasy this week, despite the unknown there with the rookie.
Yeah, I hear you. I like Ted McMillan. It's a soft matchup, right, against a Jags secondary that isn't necessarily any good and a defense that's not great. But I do like Jacksonville to win this game. I think there's a lot of hype around the trio that's forming between Trevor Lawrence, Brian Thomas Jr., and the newly drafted Travis Hunter. I think that he's going to bring a lot of energy into that organization, and especially week 1 at home. And although I think Bryce Young's a solid quarterback and going to continue to prove that, I do think Carolina is going to struggle a bit in this game. I think Trevor Lawrence is a more experienced quarterback, and I like him to go over 239.5 passing yards, especially with his new weapon in Travis Hunter. Now he has 2 vertical guys, 2 elite wide receivers that can go up and make plays, and a running back room that isn't someone's for the taking. You know, there isn't guaranteed volume there. I like this matchup against Carolina. I think that Liam Cohen is going to call a great game for Trevor Lawrence to unleash his passing ability, and I like him over 239.5 here, touching 240 passing yards. Even if this is a close game, I like Jacksonville to cover the 3.5 here. I just think they're the better team entering week 1. We'll see how it progresses as it goes on, but give me Trevor Lawrence here at 239.5. I think that's a good number given this matchup. And we're gonna roll the dice. But I do like Ted McMillan. He is a little banged up, but he's cleared for week 1. And again, this should be a very pass-friendly matchup both ways. So yeah, I like both picks here, and I think we'll see. I understand your logic about Carolina kind of hanging around and this being a close game, but I think just home field week 1, I like the Jags here, even laying 3 points. So moving on, Jets Steelers, probably the lowest volume we're gonna get in terms of points this week, and Vegas agrees. But who you got, Jets, Steelers? Who you see making an impact? Likely going to be a running back.
Yeah,
no surprises here.
Even though I like Carolina to cover, I do think Jacksonville's a good survival pool pick this year. I mean, this week, you know, they're not going to have too many games like this where they're going to be favored. So in terms of the Jets Pittsburgh game, I narrowly picked the Jets. I think a lot of people are going Rodgers here in a revenge game. I think that the cohesion might take a little bit longer to develop. The offense doesn't have as many weapons as the Jets. I think the Jets have a stronger run game. The Jets have Garrett Wilson, who I like a little more than DK, but it's close. It's definitely close. The Jets are home, and they're getting points too. So that was the deciding factor for me. And then for this game, I do like Jaylen Warren to have over 20.5 receiving yards. I think, you know, Rodgers is going to be looking for people to pass the ball to. He's going to be able to do a lot of checkdowns to Warren, and they don't have a ton of weapons on the outside. So I think Warren's going to have a decent amount of passing production this year. So PPR leagues, also watch out. Could be a sleeper this year to have good production depending on how much the rookie's involved.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, no, I don't think it's a bad pick by any means. I am on the Steelers here. I just think that their defense is a lot stronger. Although the Jets have a decent defense, I'm going to put that Hayward, they need to figure out that contract situation because he's so crucial to them inside. TJ Watt, secondary, short up with Jalen Ramsey, Joey Porter. I don't see how the Jets are really going to move the ball down the field in terms of, I don't know how many receptions over 10 yards they're going to have in this game. I think that it's going to be very hard for Justin Fields as it is as a passer Now facing this defense, I don't care if they're at home. Rodgers is very comfortable playing in MetLife. He did it for however many games last year. And I think the Steelers are just a better team, and it's the Jets. Come on, it's the Jets. I'm not betting on the Jets in a 2.5-point spread. The Eagles will find a way. I can see Boswell walking off and covered in 2.5 points here. My pick for this game is going to be Breece Hall over 19.5 receiving yards, for this reason, right? I don't see how the secondary of Pittsburgh is going to give up the big play to Justin Fields. Everything's going to be underneath. Justin Fields has a nice check down rate to running backs. I see just dump downs, rushing. It's going to be tough sledding for Garrett Wilson and these other Jets receivers. So give me 20 yards in the air for Breece Hall here, as well as Pittsburgh laying 2.5 at MetLife. Mike Tomlin's going to find a way to get it done. I like Aaron Glenn going forward, but this is going to be a learning experience for the Jets. The Elijah Vera Tucker injury, don't love to see that, especially this close to the beginning of the season. It's a season ending. You're going to have a new offensive lineman in there for the Jets as well. So I just, everything's pointing towards the Steelers here and Aaron Rodgers getting his revenge rather than Justin Fields.
Yeah, not a bad call. I think that the Jets, Rodgers is going to be familiar with the Jets defense. You know, he went up against them a lot in practice. He's an high IQ quarterback, so he's going to take advantage there. I like that you mentioned Boswell, who was the number one fantasy kicker last year. So if you're looking for a kicker, maybe he's the guy this week if you need to stream someone or you're doing just a FanDuel team or something.
I could just see him hit, I feel like week 1 last year, the Steelers played Atlanta, and he had like a crazy walk-off field goal. It just, this game will be close, but the Steelers have enough experience here, and I can see Boswell with a big pressure kick late, splitting it through the uprights, and we're moving on. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's a good call. Should we move on to the Las Vegas Raiders versus the Patriots here? We both went Patriots. I think both of us are higher on the Patriots to kind of have a bigger year this year, expanded experience for Drake May and getting TreVeyon Henderson in there. Some excitement's coming into the year this year for the Pats. And my call here, and it's rookie running back versus rookie running back too, which is exciting. I'm going to go with TreVeyon Henderson for the over for 4.5 rushing and receiving yards combined. So I think he's going to have a big play in this game. That's just the nature of who he is. And whether it's rushing or receiving, I'm going to make the call that he's going to do something. And maybe have a kick return for a touchdown too. We'll see.
Yeah, I like it. I'm also on the Patriots here with you. Home team laying 2.5. I think it's important to note that, according to Adam Schefter, as of minutes ago, Christian Gonzalez will not play for the Patriots, which is, a little bit of a loss there in the secondary. But I do believe in Mike Vrabel leading this team to victory here in week 1 against Vegas. I think Vegas is going to figure it out as the season goes along, but there are a lot of new pieces that they're toggling with. They're going on the road week 1. I like the Patriots here. I'm on Stephon Diggs over 4.5 receptions. I do like the TreVeyon Henderson pick, but I think the connection here is going to be strong between May and Stephon Diggs, and there isn't another receiver in that room that's going to really demand
is TreVeyon Henderson
more targets. Right. Exactly. You have Pop Douglas, you have all these guys, but I don't think they're going to receive the volume that Diggs is going to get right out the gate, and I think that's why they went out and got Stephon Diggs. So 4.5 receptions here. I like that line. It'll be a friendly matchup. He's not going to draw a good defensive matchup here against Vegas. I think that he's going to get a couple easy receptions with Drake May. That'll open things up for TreVeyon Henderson. They'll move the ball effectively, and they're going to cover 2.5 here as well. So give me Stephon Diggs over 4.5 receptions. I like the TreVeyon Henderson pick. It seems like this game is going to be a nice start to a solid season for Drake May and the Patriots.
Nice. I agree with that. The Raiders might be a bumpy start. They got Geno Smith in there, and they've had some wide receiver drama the last couple of days with Myers requesting the trade and all that stuff. I think was Amari Cooper in there too, and he's retired now.
Yep, he just retired.
So they're going to be searching for some help there. So we'll see how it goes. But let's move on to Arizona, New Orleans. And this is probably the biggest road line of the week. Arizona, 6.5 favorites, and we both have Arizona. I also, we'll talk about this a little later, picked Arizona as my what's it called? My week survival pool. Yeah, pick. Correct. Right. So I think New Orleans, to me, is probably a bottom 3 team in the league. I'm not very high on New Orleans. They got some unknowns in the quarterback room. Arizona, I don't think super high as well. So the reason I would go with them in the survival pool is because they're not going to have a lot of matchups like this, playing like a bottom three team. So that's kind of what you look for generally in the survival pool. And I think James Conner is going to have a bigger game. I have him over 68.5 rushing yards, which is a decently high line. But I do like Arizona be up in this game big. Also, maybe think Conner will get into the end zone at some point. Zach, what's your call here on the Arizona game?
Yeah, I think Arizona is going to make a good statement here that they're going to be competitive in the NFC West. I do like Arizona laying the touchdown here. I'm on Marvin Harrison Jr., over 58.5 receiving yards. I agree with you. I think Connor's going to be a chain mover. Lumber's a little high. I think they're going to get Trey Benson involved, but I easily see him surpassing 70 rushing yards if the game script permits. But if we recall from last year, Marvin Harrison got off to a hot start his first couple weeks in the NFL. I like 58.5 here. I see a big play, and they're going to look to work this connection right away and try new things because last year we really saw only really downfield targets. You didn't really see the CeeDee Lamb type volume or the underneath type short receptions. I think that this offense is going to look to utilize Marvin Harrison Jr. in unique ways, and I think what a better place to try this out against a soft team like New Orleans. They have a lot of room for error. They could try things, and it may lead to a turnover or a punt, but they're not going to lose this game. So I could see Marvin Harrison Jr. even getting 65, 70 receiving yards here. So I like that pick. I think Kyler's going to look better in this game, and I don't mind that they're going on the road in New Orleans. I think, like you said, New Orleans is not a great team, not a great defense. They have a lot of trouble at corner, especially after losing Marshawn Lattimore. They're just really, really banged up and weak back there. So I like Marvin Harrison Jr. to get behind that defense and explode here for maybe an 80-plus yard receiving day.
Yeah, I like that. I'd also that was another pick I was looking at as well. I think I like how you said it's going to be a little bit of an experimental game. They'll get to try some things out because they're essentially playing a college team in New Orleans at this point. We'll see. Maybe we're digging too low on New Orleans and they'll surprise some people. But to me, no, that's not the case right now.
Yeah. Moving on, Cincinnati. Not loving September as the last couple of years, but they're going to go on the road and play Cleveland here, laying 5.5. We're both on the Bengals, which maybe we shouldn't be because of the struggles that Cincinnati's had in the past in the beginning of the season. But talk to me about the Bengals and your pick for this game.
Bengals are, I think, going to have a strong year this year, especially offensively. Obviously, defense, there's some concerns there. I like that they signed their big defensive end back this year. Got him on a contract, unlike the Cowboys did. So we'll see how that works out. Maybe they can have a little slight improvement there, although they definitely have a weaker defense. I like a lot of offense from this team, especially from Chase Brown, who I have over 67.5 rushing yards. If you watched any of our couple videos so far, I'm high on Chase Brown. I think he's going to have a big year. He's going to be involved in the passing game. I think the line was at 4.5 receptions, which is quite high for a running back there. So I think that the Bengals are going to put on a show a little bit against these Cleveland Browns. We'll see, but the run game for Cleveland's not great. The pass game for Cleveland's not great. The defense is okay. We'll see how it goes, but I'm all in on Cincinnati.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Chase Brown is going to be the 3-down back. He's going to get the ultimate bell cow usage in terms of receiving and rushing. I do think the Browns' interior run defense is pretty solid. I do think this number is a little high, but it wouldn't surprise me if he surpassed it. It wouldn't be my first instinct to bet to kind of run to. But again, if he gets 20 carries, there's no reason he can't have 68 rushing yards. So I get the logic there. I'm also on Cincinnati to win this game, but I think they're going to move the ball with T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and the pass game, and that will require the Browns to do the same. And that's why I'm on David Njoku over 4.5 receptions here. I like Jerry Jeudy. I like Cedric Tillman. But I do think David Njoku is a nice safety valve for Joe Flacco to get the ball out quick. He's a great yards after catch guy, and this line is low. He's hit this a lot last year. And in a game where they're potentially going to be down a score at all times, I think I could see a nice 5 for 60, 6 for 60, and a touchdown for David Njoku here. And the value you're getting at 4.5, he's going to draw 7 targets, especially in a passing script game. I like the line here with David Njoku. I like Cincinnati minus 5.5 as well.
Yeah, and they got off to a nice start in the preseason. So
moving on to Miami going to Indianapolis. This is a tight one with, I believe, Miami laying 1.5. We're both on the Dolphins. We're really, really emotionally invested in this team bouncing back this year. Talk to me about this game and where you see the Dolphins.
I think this is a little bit, the line here is coming in with the perception. We've got some of that negative news cycle information coming out about the Dolphins, about how this is kind of going to be a year where Mike McDaniel is on the hot seat, and maybe not, things with Tyreek are not working out right now. So I think Miami's the better team if you just look at it on paper. So that's where I'm going with this. I think it's a small, like that they're underdogs against the Colts is pretty significant. The Colts are a very weak team in my opinion. I do like Tyler Warren and I like some of their weapons they have there, but I don't know if Daniel Jones is going to be able to keep up with the Tua and A-Chain, and we'll see if A-Chain plays. That'll be big as well to monitor up until the game. So if he comes out for some reason, or they decide to go with Ollie Gordon this week, then that might change where I'm at, and the line might change a little bit as well. But I think Waddle is a guy to look at this week for over 57.5 receiving yards. I think he's going to have a nice game. They've been hyping up a lot as possibly the guy that's going to pass Tyreek this offseason and be the wide receiver one for the Dolphins. I just think the Dolphins are going to have a good time with the Colts secondary this game, and be able to do have some show the NFL that they're not like on the downtrend that most people are projecting them for this year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the Dolphins. I mean, I'm on the Dolphins here too as well, but this isn't necessarily a game I'm rushing to pick a side on. The expectation for the Dolphins is definitely a pressure cooker, high one for Mike McDaniel specifically. But yeah, this isn't a game I'm really looking to take either side. If I had to choose, it would be Miami by a slim margin, just because, like you said, there might be the better team on paper. But I think that Daniel Jones and the Colts can surprise people. I'm on Daniel Jones over 21.5 rushing yards. This team in Indianapolis has prepared for Anthony Richardson, and he's a running quarterback, and now Daniel Jones is named the day one starter, and he's also a good mobile quarterback. I think that there's going to be opportunity for Jones to get outside the pocket and pick up a few first downs with his legs, and they're going to stack the box and really focus on Jonathan Taylor. I think he could easily pull a couple of these runs for himself. I like this number at 21.5. I don't know how effective the pass game is going to be with Josh Downs and Michael Pittman right away. I don't know what those connections are going to look like. In terms of Achane, I think he's a go for week one. But yeah, the injury, especially with the calf and what he's dealing with, super possible. So in any of your leagues, if Ollie Gordon's still unclaimed, I would definitely get a claim in there. I would definitely add him to your squad. It can't hurt, especially if you have an open roster spot or someone on IR. In this game, it's not a super fun game on paper. I would like to see Tua look good with Tyreek and Waddle. I'd like to see both of them, be consistent and get those targets and utilize that speed and the connection they have with Tua. But I think that the Colts are going to hang around. I'd like Daniel Jones to extend plays here, like he was doing a bit in the preseason, and get outside the pocket and run a bit. So why not have fun with some Daniel Jones rushing props? Hopefully he doesn't slip and fall 10 yards short of the end zone like he did on the Giants.
Yeah, he'd still be getting 20 yards out of that.
If that play happens, you'll be A-okay at 21.5.
Yeah, I like that prop. That's a good one. I think that's a good number as well. Let's move on to Tampa Bay, Atlanta. We got Tampa Bay 1.5 road favorites. We both have Tampa Bay. I think for me, Tampa Bay is the stronger team here. Atlanta is still going to be figuring stuff out with Penix, and they do have some offensive line injuries as well that they're going to be adjusting to start the season. And then I have Ibuka for over 57.5 receiving yards. They don't have Godwin out there. They don't have McMillan. It's going to be Evans and Ibuka for the passing yards. I think this is going to be a high offensive game. I think they're going to want to get the rookie some exposure there. There's been nothing but good things about Ibuka to start the season. So I'm starting him in fantasy. I'm in on him on this prop as well. So we'll see what the Bucs can do this game. How about you, Zach? Where are you at?
I respect it. I respect the putting your money where your mouth is. You're on Ibuka. You have him in a couple leagues. You like him getting the Goblin roll right away at 57.5. I'd like to see that number be a little bit lower, just given that he is a rookie. But again, if he just molds right into that Chris Godwin role, right into that wide receiver 2 role, isn't trying to go out there and steal touchdowns away from Mike Evans, but is going to really work the slot, will work underneath. Great route runner. 57.5 is very possible, as well as his receptions line, so I don't mind it at all. I do like Tampa to kind of pull away and win this game by a slim margin. I think these are the two teams that are going to be competing in the NFC South all year. But I'm on Bijan Robinson over 77.5 rushing yards here. I think he's the best runner in the NFL besides maybe Saquon Barkley. Anytime, Saquon Barkley enters the game, his line's in the 90s. I think soon Bijan Robinson's going to get that respect behind a decent to solid O-line here in Atlanta, where his line is just, I think it's just a low number. I don't think it's necessarily a great matchup. I think it's a fine matchup, but anytime I'm getting sub 80 rushing yards for Bijan Robinson, who's going to get 20 carries, especially with Michael Penix in his first game, I'm going to take that number all day because I trust him to work, and I trust that he's going to get 4 yards a carry at least here, especially with his foot elusiveness and how hard he is to bring down. So give me Bijan Robinson here over 77.5 rushing yards. This game's going to stay close. You're not really going to see an air and out Falcons offense where they're going to be so far behind, where rushing becomes a complete anomaly for them. It never is, to be fair, with a guy like Bijan Robinson, who's the best player on their team. He's gonna rush easily for 80 yards this week. Book it. Let's move on to
Bijan. Yeah,
what's that?
If you take high draft equity any Bijan, you can't go against him. Like this is the type of game you want to see him in. High offensive projections. Definitely, this game has a high over under. I'm pretty sure. So I like Bijan. I get a lot of work here as well.
Yeah. 77.5 just seems low. I don't know. Just seems low for week one here. He's going to get the ball a lot. Tennessee at Denver. Biggest spread of the weekend. We both have Denver covering 8.5 here. I think Tennessee's making strides in the right direction. I think this is just going to be a tough matchup for rookie quarterback. Week one to go into Denver, into the altitude, to face that defense who's, coming in as the best ranked defense in football. It's going to be tough sledding out the gate, but it's going to be something that the Titans are going to take with them and learn from for the rest of the season. Who you on this week, Tennessee?
Yeah, I mean, it's a rookie quarterback coming into the altitude there. Like you said, it's going to be a hard game for Cam Ward to get anything going, especially with how strong that Denver defense is. I do like the prop to have Cam Ward have an interception this game. Who knows? It's at 152 there, which isn't anything like too encouraging. Like, you're not going to make a ton of money on it, but definitely put a part of a parlay or something. I think a rookie quarterback on the first game against a very strong defense, good chance there's an interception. I'd say if you look historically, probably happens most of the time. So we'll see. Denver, I like to win and win big. Definitely a good survival pool pick as well. Zach, anything you want to add there for Denver, Tennessee?
Yeah, I think Denver's going to force a turnover to, in all likelihood, it's going to be in the air because they're going to be winning and the Titans are going to be forced to throw the ball a little bit more. It's going to be tough sledding for this offense as a whole, I think, for Cam Ward's sake, for Tony Pollard's sake, for Calvin Ridley's sake. Those are only real guys you're looking to play in fantasy here. You're not really looking at Chig Okonkwo or anyone else for that matter. I'm on Evan Ingram here. I think, I like 34.5. I think that's a low number. You saw Dallas Goedert go for 44 last night. I think he's a tight end where he's a top 10 tight end this week. I have him even closer to the top 5 than the top 10. So this is a soft matchup in Tennessee. I think 34.5 receiving yards is low, and Sean Payton's going to look to get him acclimated really quick in this offense. This is his first game as a Denver Bronco, so it's super exciting. And for that reason, I'm also going to take Evan Ingram anytime touchdown at plus 195. I like the value there. I think Sutton's going to draw attention, especially from L'Jarius Sneed, who's going to be playing in this game. I like Evan Ingram to be that receiving tight end here in Denver, that kind of number 2 option. Then you have guys like Marvin Mims and Troy Franklin kind of filling out those other vertical roles in the passing attack. But it's really Evan Ingram's field underneath, so I like 34.5. I like his receptions. I could easily see him being, a 6-7 reception guy this week for 50-plus yards, especially against a weak secondary outside of L'Jarius Sneed in Tennessee. So give me Evan Ingram this week. Anything else in this game? We want to move on to San Francisco at Seattle.
No, let's move on. I think, as you mentioned in your start sit video, Calvin Ridley might be a sit this week just based on that matchup.
Yeah,
it's going to be a tough one. It's kind of a wait and see too with Cam Ward. You want to see what he looks like in real NFL game action. And next game we got San Francisco at Seattle. San Francisco is the 1.5 road favorites there. I have San Francisco. You have Seattle. Obviously, we got some terrible news with McCaffrey. If you're a McCaffrey owner, that's got to be tough to hear that he's already dealing with the injury there. I think he's going to play, so that's heavily considered in my pick here, and then maybe rest of the season you have to worry about that. If he sustains an injury, maybe he's a little more prone to something. Now, I do think this is a close game for me. It's not an easy call. I think San Francisco is just a better team. Sam Darnold's going to be coming into this offense for this first time. Meanwhile, Purdy's been there a while, and Jawan Jennings is playing, Ricky Pearsall is playing, hopefully McCaffrey's playing, and then Kittle, of course. But I do like Ken Walker to have over 13.5 receiving yards. He's a pretty capable back there, getting catches and PPR play. And Zach Charbonnet too is 9.5 receiving yards, I think. So both of those guys, I think, can get involved there. Especially Sam Darnold might need some help. San Francisco's defense might be getting after the quarterback a little bit. Might need to do some drop downs there. So I would feel comfortable with that prop there. Zach, what do you got there?
I like those props if you think that the San Francisco 49ers are going to be holding a lead throughout this game. But I happen to think the opposite. I think Seattle is going to, with the help of the 12th man, is going to win this football game. You hate to see the Christian McCaffrey news with the calf. I do agree with you. I think he's going to play, but I don't know if I'm a fantasy manager. I necessarily want him to play. He's at significant risk for re-injury with his calf. He's at significant risk for a worse injury such as an Achilles tear, and you just hate to see this before the season is starting. I don't want to overreact. I do have a little bit of McCaffrey stock in a couple of my leagues. Not overreacting here, but I think with this news going into Seattle, Mike Macdonald's going to have a good run game, a good scheme. You're dealing with injuries. Jawan Jennings just got his incentive, but the Niners are a little more banged up in my opinion. I think that Seattle is going to move the ball effectively here against a Niners defense that isn't as good as it has been the last couple of years. The prop I'm on for this game is George Kittle over 4.5 receptions. If McCaffrey's limited in any capacity and you have guys like Brian Robinson Jr. and Garendo out there, I think that receiving work McCaffrey would have gotten is going to go to Kittle. Kittle had a big game against them. He sat out one game against Seattle last year and played the other, had a big game, hit this line easy. I think he had 6 or 7 catches and 2 touchdowns. I like Kittle again to just be that security blanket for Brock Purdy in a game that's going to be a tough environment. Week 1 in Seattle, one of the best fans and crowds in all of football and all of sports for that matter. I think Seattle's going to slide away with the win here. I think they're going to run the ball effectively with Ken Walker and Charbonnet. I think that JSN's going to do his thing in the slot. And I think Sam Darnold's going to get a nice win here for Seattle in his first start. So yeah, give me Jimmy Kittle over 4.5 here and Seattle on the money line.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a close one for me. It really comes down to, do I trust Sam Darnold yet in the Seattle uniform? I don't know. We've seen him in the Jet uniform not to be too good. Minnesota, he was obviously a better quarterback, so I want to see what he's like in a different offense before I go all in on him to get the victory here. So I think both of us I like Kittle as well to have a decent game. Let's move on to Detroit against Green Bay. Green Bay is a 2.5 favorite at home against Detroit, who had a very strong year last year. A bit surprising for me, obviously Green Bay, with the addition of Parsons, maybe getting a little extra hype. We both had Detroit there. Zach, why do you think Detroit is going to win the game there? Or do you think they're going to cover? What's kind of shifting your perception there to go on the Detroit side of things rather than Green Bay?
I mean, I understand the Green Bay hype. You get a guy like Micah Parsons, but I'm going to take Detroit at plus money all day. I don't know if necessarily they're going to for sure win the game, but I'm going to take the value at plus money. You're getting this team at plus money. Yes, Green Bay has Micah Parsons. He's a game wrecker. Yes, this team is a lot better. and I love Matthew Golden as well. Side note. But Micah Parsons has been the team for like a week or so. You're putting all these pieces together. Now you have all these expectations. You jump to the favorite in the NFC North. This is a team in Detroit that sees all that happening. And that's just, you don't need Dan Campbell to get any more reasons to fire up his team in that locker room. This team is going to come out fired up. They're hearing all this Packers noise. They're not liking it. And I'm getting plus money? Yes, please. Check all the boxes. I'm on the Detroit Lions here, as well as Jameson Williams to go over 22.5 and have a huge play on his longest reception. These teams, even if they got closer, I'm getting Detroit at plus money. I think you come in, Gibbs is a game breaker. Amon-Ra St. Brown's a game breaker. Aiden Hutchinson's healthy. So for your Micah Parsons, well, we have Aiden Hutchinson. I think the Lions are going to run the ball effectively with Montgomery and Gibbs. They lost Kenny Clark. Everyone's talking about, we acquired Micah Parsons. Rightfully so. One of the best defensive players in the league. But Kenny Clark is a great run stopper. You saw it last night in a couple plays he blew up against Saquon Barkley. That's a guy you're not just going to replace in a week and expect to stop the best rushing offense in all of football. So I think the Lions here are going to have no trouble scoring. I like the Lions team total over as well. I think this could be a very entertaining game, and I like the value with the Lions here. Jack, what do you got?
Yeah, like you, it seems kind of like a no-brainer. It seems like Detroit was the better team last year. They're getting some defensive pieces back. Green Bay's got a little better with Parsons losing their run stopper as well. They got some injuries on the receiver end as well below Golden. Some of those guys, we don't know if they're going to be fully healthy when they play, if they're going to play at all. So that's what's getting me on the Detroit side of things. But they're both elite teams this year, so I expect both to be in the playoffs. But in terms of props this game, I like Tucker Kraft to have a touchdown. I like Jahmyr Gibbs to have a touchdown. So that's where I'm at. I think those are the guys that I mean, Kraft's obviously a high touchdown guy. If you're starting at a tight end, that's kind of your hope. He's going to have the touchdown. And then Gibbs was really heating up at the end of last year. Lots of touchdowns. Took the role away from Montgomery a little bit. I mean, they're both I had a lot of games where they both had touchdowns. So I feel good about Gibbs getting in the end zone this game.
Yeah, I think the more I look at that Gibbs line, minus 115, I think that's a really good bet. In both scripts, it's very possible for him to get in the end zone. And when you look at how the Packers defense is reformatted now with two elite edge rushers who get to the quarterback quickly in Rashawn Gary and Micah Parsons, you're going to see Detroit utilize the run game a lot. You're going to utilize the screen game a lot to counteract their ability to get to Jared Goff quickly. They're going to lean on Gibbs a lot. They're going to lean on underneath stuff. So I love Gibbs. I think Tucker Kraft's a nice little long shot bet there at plus 195. But again, Dan Campbell got all the reasons in the world this offseason, especially the last couple weeks, to fire up this Detroit Lions team. You bring up a great point. They're getting all these defensive guys back. Hutchinson looks great. He's hungry. He's ready to go. Secondary short up. You got Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph back there. This team is going to be hungry to beat the Packers opening night, to go into Lambeau and make a statement. I like Gibbs to score. I like even Jameson Williams to get a short pass and make it a long pass. So I really agree with your logic here. I like where our heads are at going into this week 1 divisional matchup. Moving on to another fun, exciting game we could see a lot of points in. The Houston Texans are going to visit the Los Angeles Rams. Where you're on Houston, I'm on the Rams. It's a pretty close game. Talk to me about this game and how you see the receivers, especially Puka Nacua, Nico Collins, Devontae Adams, playing a role.
It's an interesting game. Yeah, it's an interesting matchup. We're going to learn a lot about these offenses this game. Obviously, with Houston, we got some news yesterday. Christian Kirk is going to be held out of the game. He's dealing with an injury. So that had me elevate Jaden Higgins a little bit, seeing they're going to get the rookie involved. I have him over 32.5 receiving yards in the game. I do have Houston as the covering with the 3 points. I think it's going to be a close game. Their defense is really good. We got some news about Stafford's been dealing with some injuries coming out of the gate here. So I don't know how warm he is to starting this game. I mean, he's a veteran. He's going to figure it out. And I very well could be wrong, and the Rams could, but I think it's going to be a close one. So that was the reasoning there. I do like Nico Collins as well. Collins is as well. And then for Adams and Puka, I think they're going to have big games as well. It's tougher corners, so I'm not as high on them as to necessarily get their overs as well. But it still starts in fantasy.
Yeah. This is a game, again, this is kind of like similar to Miami and Indianapolis. This isn't a game I'm rushing to really bet on in terms of money line or spread or really pick a side. I went with the Rams here, I just think because they're the home team. And I do like Puka and Devontae, but this is going to be a tough matchup with Derek Stingley and Kamari Lassiter. But I still think that the Rams can move the ball, especially with Kyron Williams and Blake Corum. The Texans are coming in with a really, really good defense, especially with rough pass rushers Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter, and a good secondary that they're gonna really shore up coverage, and that'll help the interior guys as well. My prop for this game is going to be Nico Collins anytime touchdown. Seems like he always finds the end zone, and with really limited options at receiver with really Nico Collins and Jaden Higgins. I see Nico Collins just getting all the looks in the red zone in terms of passing. You don't have Joe Mixon back there. I don't know who else scores for this team, to be honest. So I'm taking Nico Collins to score all day in a game that could potentially be down a score or two. I do like the Rams slightly here again. Nick Chubb's going to be involved. Dameon Pierce is going to be involved. Woody Marks may be involved. In terms of skill players, the Rams are coming in with a little more firepower on offense, and I think that will give them a little bit of an edge. But I'm not really rushing pick the aside here. I like Nico Collins' ATD. It's one of my favorite touchdown props this weekend, given he's the only really receiver, and he finishes at the goal line really well, just as good as any receiver in the league. 6'4", 220, 15 plus pounds. He will get his way into the end zone in this game if the Texans have any chance of winning. So, with that being said, we're moving on to Sunday Night Football. Baltimore, Buffalo. Many think this is going to be the AFC Championship preview. Maybe I don't, because I think the Chiefs will have something to say about that. But how do we see this game playing out, Jack?
Yeah, I'll take Buffalo at home, getting points. That's an easy decision for me. I mean, both are good teams, but in Buffalo, I think Buffalo will get the win there. I do think, obviously, it's going to be a high scoring, close game. With the Baltimore offense, I think Zay Flowers is going to have a strong game, over 57.5 receiving yards. He has some trouble getting in the end zone sometimes, but he's their main guy there on the outside, going to get some targets, and I feel strongly about him doing something in this game. We'll see. And then from the Buffalo side, I think it's going to be more of a team effort. It's harder to narrow down who's going to get the touchdowns there. I like Keon Coleman. I like James. I like Cook. I like Kincaid. So it's a little harder to narrow down who's going to be the main guy there. So I think this is going to be a good gauge that'll help us with the rest of the season, kind of narrow down which guys there. Like maybe Joshua Palmer has an elevated role that we don't necessarily anticipate at this moment.
Right. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see for Buffalo who this wide receiver one is going to be, who emerges as a wide receiver one. Could be Keon Coleman, could be Josh Palmer, could be Khalil Shakir again. But I like Buffalo at home, basically getting Pick'em on the line here. Just pick the home team. They're fired up. This is the Hard Knocks team. So I like Buffalo by a little bit. I'm also on Zay Flowers, but I'm going to take him over 4.5 receptions. I'm not super confident in the yards, given how good of a tackling secondary I think this Buffalo team is, especially with, guys willing to risk their lives out there like Damar Hamlin and Teron Johnson. And I think they re-signed Jordan Poyer, Christian Benford. They have Tre'Davious White back. It's not a great secondary, but I do think that if it's going to be a downfield play, it'll probably be Bateman, who's just more of a vertical threat. I think they're going to utilize Zay Flowers underneath. I like 4.5 receptions. I think that Lamar's going to throw the ball a lot like he did last year with the 41 passing touchdowns. Obviously, he'll run and Henry will be involved. I think things are going to open up a little bit for Flowers in the 5 to 10 yard range with Henry and all the attention he's going to get there. So in a fun Sunday Night Football game, I'll take Zay Flowers over 4.5 receptions here. Last but not least, we got Minnesota, Chicago, Monday Night Football. You're on the Vikings. I'm on the Bears. And this should be a fun divisional matchup. Two, second-year quarterback versus a rookie quarterback. How do you see this one playing out, Jack?
This one, yeah, it's gonna again show us a lot. Like all these Week 1 games are gonna show us. It's hard to bet Week 1 when you don't really have too much information yet. But this is where you could use some of your knowledge to kind of see where the people are not looking as closely and under the radar on some picks. So I think Minnesota is a team I like a little more than Chicago this year. The Vikings obviously were very high on McCarthy. They had him ahead of Darnold before he got injured. So I think Chicago is still a team that's got some stuff to work out. I think it's a close game. It's a divisional game, but give me the Vikings just because of where they were last year and some of the experience they're coming with in guys on the receiver room like Jefferson and Hawkinson. I have Hawkinson at over 41.5 receiving yards. Obviously, no Addison this game, and then Jefferson's dealing with still the injury a little bit. I mean, he's going to play. He's going to be 100%. But I think up the middle with Hawkinson is going to be a safety type of gouge for McCarthy up the middle. So I like them to have a big game there.
Yeah, I like that Hawkinson.
What do you like there?
I like that Hawkinson pick. I think that number's a little low at 41.5. I think it should be closer to that 50 mark for Hawkinson, who we saw, get a little more involved last year. I think he's going to emerge back closer to, his Detroit Lions form here for the Vikings, especially with Addison out for 3 games. You expect Hawkinson to get a little more action. Obviously, Jefferson's going to get his in a matchup here with Jalen Johnson, which I'm super excited to see play out. But I am on the Chicago Bears. I believe in Ben Johnson. I'm not going to not believe in him now. I like that they're the home team. I think the O-line got shored up a little bit. And shocker, but not shocking, I'm on Rome Odunze, over 50 receiving yards here against Minnesota. He's in my start video. He's on a lot of my fantasy teams. He's in a lot of my season-long parlays. I just believe in him. I believe in the talent. I believe in Caleb Williams looking his way consistently enough to get him over this 50-yard mark in a game where I could see some nice passing work both ways. I like Jefferson as well. You always like Jefferson, to flirt with 100 receiving yards every game he plays. I'd like to just see J.J. McCarthy have an efficient passing game before I'm running to bet a crazy Justin Jefferson line or a crazy J.J. McCarthy line for that reason. So I like the Bears at home here. Another game that I think is close. Probably not going to really flirt with the money line, but I like Rome Odunze to be the leading receiver for Chicago here in a close game.
Nice. Yeah, I think those are good picks. I think this will be a fun thing to keep track out throughout the season and see what. Yeah, for sure. See where we get and kind of develop our picks for you guys throughout the season. Zach, do you want to move on to the survival pool now? I'm excited for this. We're just going to pick a team. If you've never heard of survival pool, you pick a team once. Yeah, you pick a team once. You can't pick that team again. So it's an interesting strategy game where you pick teams necessarily at the beginning of the year that maybe have a mediocre team, get them over with. They're playing one of the worst teams. And then later in the year, you can save up some of those good teams. Maybe they have a matchup on the road where you're not so sure. This is a tough week, I think. There's not too many options I'm super comfortable with. And then for me, as I talked about, I picked the Cardinals here. I like them against the Saints. I don't love that they're on the road, but I just think New Orleans is a weak team that any team this year that I see on the schedule is someone I'm going to look for in the survival pool. What do you got this weekend?
Yeah, I think, like you said, this is a very tough survivor pool week one, with the highest spread being under 10 points. I'm going to go with the highest spread. That being said, I know, unexciting. I'm going to take the Denver Broncos here. I know they're a good team. They're in a tough division. I don't know when I'm going to really pick them again, but as a lot of people like to say, I'm just going to see one go down. I just want to see one go down, get on the board, get a nice win, and I think my best shot at doing that, even though they're a better team than Arizona, and this isn't a bad week to take Arizona, I'm going to take the Denver Broncos here against the Tennessee Titans. This is the game that I think the road team has the least, chance of really coming out on top, and Bo Nix is going to be ready to go. So give me Denver here. I think it's the safest pick you can make this week in terms of survivor pool. I like where Jack's head's at, taking a team in Arizona who isn't necessarily a dominant team. It's good to get them out of the way early. If it works out, he's probably going to be a little bit better position than I am. But I'm going to see one go down here. I'm going to just take my layup. Even though Jack's taking, free throw, mid-range jumper, I'm going to take my layup with Denver here. I don't think they're going to lose to the Tennessee Titans.
I like it. It's a safe pick. It's definitely the pick I'd feel most comfortable with. I do want to see if I can save Denver a little bit and feast on those teams that are a little weaker. So we'll see. Hopefully we both make it to week 2. But either way, we'll be giving you guys our picks each week and letting you know who, if you're in a survival pool, maybe some considerations there.
Yeah, we're going to do this every week heading into the weekend. It's super fun to track. And yeah, we're going to give you our best bets. We're going to talk about, I think next episode, we're going to talk a little bit about our fantasy weekends next week to tip off an episode like this. But yeah, we're super excited to keep pumping out content for you guys. Jack and I have a lot more up our sleeves, and it's only week 1. We've only seen one game. We're about to see a second tonight. So enjoy. Have a great weekend. Have a great football Sunday. Don't leave your couches, and enjoy the commercials on Red Zone. I know we all are going to enjoy that as well. Jack, any final words, remarks, words of encouragement for Christian McCaffrey owners? Anything?
Stay hopeful, guys. Week 1 is week 1, and I've had plenty of weeks where I lose week 1 and then make some good runs in whatever league I'm in. Pick up some guys on the waiver wire. So don't lose hope if you have a bad week 1. You can come back to us and we'll have some good fab predictions for next week or guys you can target in the waiver wire. So just excited. It's going to be a fun time. Looking forward to 7 hours of commercial-free football.
Semi-commercial-free football. But yeah, appreciate you guys. We will catch you early next week to dive into everything we saw go down this weekend. Peace out.